Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to Gruppo Italiano Frattura for the kind invitation to this workshop. And first of all, I have to say that probably differently from the other speakers, I'm not going to talk about the singularity in the meaning of stress field that cracks, but I'm speaking of singularities as a part of components having a singular part on it. I mean mainly mechanical components with the sharp notches or welded details. And so the actual title of my talk is a question. And is it possible to use common effective stress definitions in finite element analysis of real components? And another preliminary, you will see several questions in my presentation. My talk is not a real completed research activity, so we will see several questions. At the end, if you have the answer, they are really welcome. And in the following, I will call effective stress any effective scalar value defined at a notch or a crack, dependent on stress, strain field, or strain energy, and let us say somehow related to strength in fracture or fatigue strength. And in this talk, I will focus on, first of all, linear elastic analysis, and in the assessment of high cycle fatigue strength. For instance, the notch sensitivity in fatigue is something like that, that is defined KF, as actually KF define an effective value by multiply this coefficient by the nominal stress. This is just an example. But this other example of effective stress definition are the critical distance value, as an example, is widely known and widely used, for instance, by Professor Taylor. And the idea is, may I say, is simple. So the strength of the point P is related to a stress component evaluated at a given distance D. And another possibility is an average value, to define average value. So the strength of the point P is related to the average value of a stress component evaluated on a domain. The domain A can have several shapes and geometrical properties. In this example and in the following, we will consider the semicircular domain, but we have seen even this morning or even in previous presentation other examples of the circular domain. And in both of this definition, the distance D and R are calibrated according to mechanical properties of parent material. And another property is that you can use the effective definition to deal with the stress gradient. And I would like to highlight that you can divide, you can separate the problem of the gradient with the problem of the strength criteria, I mean the multi-axial problem, so that you can use here as equivalent stress any kind of stress parameter. So let's say principal stress, shear, invariance, strain energy density, and any kind of parameter. And at the University of Ferrara, the group together with Professor Livieri, recently we have proposed an apparently different effective stress, that is the implicit gradient. If we start with this kind of definition that is quite similar to the average value, but is a weighted average, as there is a weight that is given by this parameter alpha. If alpha is something like a Gauss curve or a quadratic curve, quadratic weight, you can approximate this equation with a partial differential equation. So instead of solving this integral, you can solve this partial differential equation by a proper choice of the boundary condition. Like D and R, in this case, there is a constant C that is a length and is related to the property of the material. And the partial differential equation can be easily solved by several numerical tools, as an example, console, multiphysics. Just to give you an idea, it's much easier to solve this equation from the numerical point of view, is easier than the linear elastic problem itself. An example, if we consider a welded tube, we can use this equation on the stress field. As an example, we can use as an equivalent stress the principal stress, and we obtain the effective stress evaluated all over the component. This picture gives the equivalent, the effective value. So, at the tip here we have a stress singularity, but the effective value is finite and is continuous all over the component. So it's possible here to have a value, and this value is related in this case to the strength, the fatigue life of the welded joint. Another example, let us consider this load-carrying cruciform joint. In this joint we have 12 singular edges, 2 on each fillet on the four sides of the joint, and 2 tips at each crack. So we have 12 singularity. We can evaluate this is a section, and we have plotted in the theta axis the amount of the effective stress. So you can compare directly the different maxima, and you can assess or estimate the actual critical position, so where the crack is going to initiate. And this value is again related to the fatigue life. Well, I would like to highlight that we have done actually a possible critical step from the previous definition to this definition. It is different from the methodological point of view. And the main difference is this one. In critical distance and average stress, first of all, the critical point is known or assumed. And then the effective stress is evaluated at the critical point. In this approach, the effective stress is evaluated all over the component, and then the critical point is the location showing the highest value of the effective stress. Is this method safe? So, first of all, is really necessary a critical point assessment in real components? Because if the critical point is always well known, well, this paper is meaningless. The second question, is there any problem in this approach? Well, let's consider this example. Is a specimen tested in the lab of Professor Taylor, and the results have been recently published. And this is a rather strange specimen because it is a three-dimensional V-sharp notch, and is there. And I have to say that the notch is sharp on both directions, here and there. And we have done a linear elastic analysis, and obviously all the edges show singular distribution of stress field. But if this specimen is loaded under tensile or under torsional loading, where will be the crack initiation under fatigue loading? Well, with the implicit gradient, we have investigated this specimen, and it turns out that the critical point could be different under tensile and under torsional loading. And this is confirmed by experiment. I don't know if you can see this picture is taken there, and you can see in this case a crack starting from the tip, and in this case one crack starting from the edge. So, in our opinion, only a numerical tool can estimate the actual initiation point in a complex three-dimensional component. But obviously, if I said tell you that there are many questions in my talk and not enough answer, it's because there are several problems. As an example, let us consider a simple crack under mode 1 loading, and if I compute the effective value with the implicit gradient, the actual maximum is not at the tip is there, but is moved ahead of the tip. So when you calibrate when I calibrate my criteria, I have to choose if the critical point to be considered for calibration, as an example of the constant C, should be chosen according to this value or that value. The difference is small, but from the methodological point of view is completely different, because you are changing from the actual tip from the maximum of your effective stress definition. Another problem, but in this case I'm not sure that it's really a problem, is if we consider a spot welding under tensile loading, that is a lap joint, so the spot is mainly loaded by a mode 2, a minimum shear. The implicit gradient have a maximum value that is not at the tip, but is moved along the free edge. And even in experimental tests, sometimes it's possible to find cracks initiating not at the tip, but along the free edge. Usually, these initiations are related with the non-homogeneity of the material at the weldment. But we have even seen, and it has been said as an example by Professor Berto previously, that in these cases there are several stress components. I mean the singular terms, the T-stress, the out-of-plane singularity. So, in this case, starting from a three-dimensional stress analysis, within this computation, from numerical point of view, not from theoretical point of view, each component is involved. Well,
So general issues are effective value of stress parameters really maxima at expected failure position? Are there considerable differences by changing stress parameter or by changing the effective value definition? In this second part of my talk, I will only consider a very simple plane geometry, because I think that if there is a general problem, probably it's better to understand it on plain, simple geometry and then to try to go back to three-dimensional problem. So, let us investigate the free edge of a sharp notch. This is not really a sharp crack, because I've used a small radius rho in order to have a continuous definition of the effective stress along the free edge. If here the radius should be 0, there is no possibility to have a continuous definition of the average stress and even of the critical distance. Then, mode 1 loading. Let us consider these nodes under mode 1 loading is not written but is under plane strain assumption. If we investigate the free edge, the average value has a trend like that. Let us consider as an example, the red line is the principal stress. I have to say that the tip of the notch is here. So we see that the average value has actually a maximum at the tip. The implicit gradient has a kind of flat zone, because the implicit gradient is actually saying that if the radius is smaller than the constant c, there is no difference along the radius itself. On the other side, the critical distance has several maxima in several parameters, strain energy, principal stress, or shear stress, and they are not really at the tip. If we consider the mode 2 loading, the situation is even more complex, but we have seen in the left joint that in mode 2 there could be several further components in actual specimen. So, going to the conclusion, the last investigation is not on the free edge, but within the material, so inside, ahead of the tip. And in this case, the critical distance cannot be defined, because there is not the normal to the surface if I am inside the material. So, inside the material, I can use only the average value and the implicit gradient to make a comparison. And in this case, I use a circular domain, because inside the material, since it's not available the normal to the surface, it's not possible to give the orientation of the proper orientation of the semicircular domain. So I have to use a domain that is symmetric and a circular one. And this is the used frame of reference. And the results are these under mode 1 loading. So in inner point investigation, moving ahead of the tip, both the implicit gradient and average value has local maxima higher than the tip value, just ahead of the tip. So, the problem of dealing with maxima at locations different from tips is common in both definitions. So, the overview of the obtained results is consider the effective stress definition could show local maxima not at the tip. Difference between maxima and not tip values are higher in critical distance approach along the free edge. But the same problem is present in implicit gradient and in average value inside the material. And I've not underlined that actually there are different parameters that show similar trends. For instance, if we could have enough time, we should verify that the total strain energy and the principal stress has similar trends, and another similarity is between the deviatoric component of the strain energy and the maximum value of the shear stress. Then the conclusions are: effective stress values could be needed for failure point location assessment and in finite element investigation, particularly in very complex components. And common effective stress definition and local maxima not at the tip. The implicit gradient, due to its definition, is less sensible to this problem. And in any case, these features should be clarified on simple geometries before an extensive application on complex real components. Thank you very much.
I've got a commentary question, right? Yeah. You mentioned at the beginning, going from the integral approach to the differential approach, the implicit approach.
Yeah.
There's an approximation depending on alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you take alpha the Green's function,
Yeah.
then there's no approximation. It's exact.
Yeah.
So that's nice. If people
Yes.
take that approximation, you can get away with having a one-to-one correspondence if you take for alpha, if you take Green's function.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the problem is that if you change alpha to the Green function, you are not able to approximate the integral with such an easy partial differential equation. So the partial differential equation turned out to be more complex.
Oh. Maybe it's different Green function. The Green function I've seen gives that exactly that differential equation that you showed. But actually, that's
we could verify. Yeah. If I remember, you actually, when you change from the integral equation to the partial differential equation, you are doing a serial expansion of the weight function. So, as a matter of fact, you only take the first two terms of the function itself in this approximation.
I know what you mean. There's something else, but
okay.
That's outside the board. The question I had was, you mentioned something about that the implicit gradients differential equation is actually easier to solve than the standard elasticity equations.
From numerical point of view.
Yeah. Why? Because
you are dealing with scalar, you are not dealing with the vectors or tensor.
Right, because you still have to solve a global equation.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's clear then. Thank you.
Yes, Roberta. Yes, I think your implicit gradient method is wonderful, and I have to really, because the story is, as you know, that you came to me a few years ago and said, well, I would like my student to spend some time in your lab stage, and so Luca and I put our heads together and we found a specimen that we thought would be really difficult for you to predict, and you predicted it perfectly. So, you know, I have to say this is because you did something we can't do.
Yes, we designed the specimen.
So that's good. But I guess, you know, the way I would think of it is, I mean, I can understand why you're worrying about this problem from the point of view of the making the numerical predictions. But really, I guess the physical problem, to me, doesn't really exist, because it seems to me that the reason we use the average method, stress average method or point stress method, is because we know that there is this thing called a process zone or failure zone, where the failure process is happening somewhere in there. We don't actually know what the stresses and strains are at any point in there, because they're all affected by the microstructure locally and everything is crazy. And, you know, there are some examples of failure mechanisms where maybe you have a crack and the crack advances, but it does advance by, let's say something fails ahead of the crack tip and then the connection is made back to the crack, so that, the failure actually happens at some point ahead of the crack, whereas in other cases it goes the other way. So, I don't think it's really a physical problem. You see what I mean?
From my point of view, the problem is mainly a methodological problem. So, when you say, I use effective stress at the failure point, you have no problem at all, because you are calibrating your approach exactly at the point where you are going to compute it. So it's a kind of, I don't know if it's right, it's a self-coherence, let us say. But when you are saying, well, now I want to address complex structures, so you have to compute it everywhere, and you have to trust on the result. Hence, the problems should be solved with the same method even in simple geometry. And the problem is here, no, not here. If I have this geometry and I calibrate the constant in order to have a coherence for the prediction here, and the maxima is not here, is there, you could have a problem because the prediction on simple geometry is not the right one. And the problem is the same here. So, it's a problem, first of all, of calibrating the method on the right point in order to have a consistent approach on the complex domain. I don't know if I've been sufficiently clear.
Well, yes, I think so, but you're saying you may find that your worst point is not the point on the surface.
Yeah.
So what? That's fine. Yeah, I'm happy about that. I think that's where the failure will actually occur. So I'm happy.
Yes, but the problem is that in this case we already know that these maxima are not of the right position because the failure is not there.
That's okay.
There is an interesting paper by Westbrook on this geometry. He quantified the effect of three-dimensional effect and the presence of a strong and out-of-plane mode based on due to mode 2 stress distribution. So the problem is really three-dimensional. In this case, in my opinion, it is necessary to use a volume. I am not able to use nothing else. Do you agree?
Yes, if you have solved the problem on simple plane. So first of all, your method should be sound on simple geometry. Then you can extend it to three-dimensional, first of all. The other aspect is that the implicit gradient is defined in three dimensions directly. So you don't have the problem of defining the process volume. So I think that the implicit gradient could have an advantage in dealing with a three-dimensional problem.
Can I just think of a simple question? If I took, let's say, cast iron, okay, and I took a series of bars and I put different notch geometries in them, okay, and then I scaled them up by a factor of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying that if I pulled them or twisted them, this approach would tell me when failure occurs?
When I will have solved all the problem.
The answer,
In any case,
where's the data for that?
so
the results to cast iron?
Okay, different notch geometries, different sizes. Okay, tell me the papers afterwards, please.
It's quite
Because
interesting.
which of those would you use though? Strain energy? Like, which one?
No, it's not. Sorry.
Have I missed the point?
The one you are going to use depend on the criterion you want to use.
Oh, yeah,
and, okay. I'm saying.
Okay, so you're not saying which criteria to use. You're just saying just be systematic.
No, sorry. Trying
So
to
I missed
explain.
the point of the talk.
Yeah. Here in this picture, I can show you the trend of the implicit gradient applied to several possibilities. Strain energy,
Oh yeah, okay.
principal stress, max
Right,
shear.
okay.
If you are saying less, for instance, cast iron,
Yeah.
I guess cast iron is more sensible to principal stress. So I would use this.
Hang on, but would you, David, would you know a priori what that material behaved? Would you know beforehand which of those three to use? Four to use?
In the world of fraction mechanics, we can't do that. We have to do experiments.
Okay. So let's argue my argument. Okay, I take cast iron. Sorry, I'm going to. I take cast iron. I put different notches in of one size. Okay. Then I look at all those four and find the best one, the best fit. Now I scale it up by a factor of 10. Okay, and the argument is you have data that says I choose one of those. Let's say maximum principal stress. I choose the value C in his analysis, and I use that constant.
So
I can scale it up.
No, so a short question, if I'm understanding, the problem is even the size effect. So if I multiply by a scale factor,
No, I'm not arguing about scaling anything. I'm just saying if you do a set of tests on 10 millimeter and then change it to 100 millimeter,
yeah, keep the same thing.
keep the same C.
Yeah.
Okay. Show me the papers, boys.
Now there are some other effects like there's
Are you running out of time?
You
Can you show that graph again where you will compare average, critical distance and implicit? You had a couple of these ones, yeah. On the bottom curve, where is the crack tip again? Right. So what happens then at that point? You have a kink, which is a bit surprising. You solve the differential equation, which is very smooth. So why do you have a kink in your black curve halfway through?
Here?
Yeah.
Here, because in the implicit gradient, if the constant C is larger than the not tip radius, the gradient of the solution is smoother than the distance from here to there.
But you apply the equation to the entire domain.
Yeah.
So you would expect continuity of the solution and the derivative over the entire domain.
Yes.
So I don't understand why you've got such a sharp kink. So maybe it's not after the bar.
This is a limit. This is a limit condition when rho, the radius, is very small and tends to 0. If you have a finite, let us say something like radius 1/10 of the constant C, here you have a smooth variation, something like that.
So what's the horizontal axis? So this distance, isn't it?
Yeah, this is this distance t. So you're moving along this line.
Yeah, I understand it. Thank you.